Hey guys, it's Candace from Candace Luter Art and Interiors, and welcome to National Creativity Day. I am so excited to have you guys live here in my home studio in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and to have partnered with Michaels on your very own DIY macrame class. So in this beginner class, we're going to go over a couple of the macrame basics, one of those being the Larks head knot, and together we are going to take you step by step through this floral macrame wall hanging like you see here. And then at the end of class, I've actually pre-made a couple other options to kind of show you how you can make embellishments and how you can change what we learned today to make your own in the future. So before we get started, I know there's a couple other people that are still joining. I wanted to just tell you a little bit more about myself real quick and a little bit about how I got started, just hoping that it will inspire and encourage you in your own creative journey. So years ago, like many of you, and I hate to say like age is just a number, but I do bring up my age. I just turned 38, woohoo, 30s club. Just to say, I throw that out there just to say that it's never too late to start over. And so to me, I found my creative journey very late in life, but I did grow up very creative, always sketching and doodling in class. And honestly, like in corporate America, I would be sketching and doodling in meetings as well. I'm sure there's some of you that are out there that are like me. And so it really wasn't until Pinterest came on the scene that itch to be creative really kind of just start for me. And so it kind of took me back to my childhood days. And let's be honest, if you're around my age, entrepreneur really wasn't a word. That might as well have been a starving artist. And so being creative, being an entrepreneur wasn't something that ever really, that I ever really embraced or was ever really like encouraged. So when Pinterest first came out, of course, I was like many other people, losing hours of my life, searching all over Pinterest and upcycling everything I could find. I was a single mom at the time. And so for me, it was kind of just me time, something for myself that I could do that I felt good about. And then I realized if I started doing local vendors and markets and farmers markets that I could make some decent money at it. So for me, that's kind of how I got my start. And then over time, I started getting into power tools. And then eventually wanting to branch off on my own, I decided that farmers market was taking too much of my time and decided to just kind of create this little hobby / side hustle for myself and launch them out online. And really that's kind of how things took off. So I say I'm 38 to say that it's never too late to start over. And then I really would just encourage everyone through this class and through your own creative journey, just to not let your circumstances really drive your creative success. Because if you would have told me even 2 years ago, as a single mom, the things I'd be able to do today, I really wouldn't have believed you. So I am so excited to be in front of you here and to share with you what I've created for you here specifically for this class, and can't wait to see what you guys do with it. So now that we're all on, I kind of want to go over the materials list, and you guys might have picked up different floral arrangements based on where what was available at your local Michaels. But first, I tried to find like the bulkiest yarn that I could find. This one is about a 6 ounce. I would say whenever I am doing macrame projects, for me, I like a chunkier look. So I would say the chunkier, the better. If you are going to use something a little bit thinner, that is totally okay. Just know that whatever your project is, it'll probably take you longer to do, just to make up the length of what you're looking to do. So for today, I'm going to go ahead and be using this ounce of yarn. And then we have a floral wire that we'll be using to attach our floral arrangements. I've got ArtMinds mini glue sticks here with the ArtMinds glue gun. And then we need, of course, a pair of scissors to cut that floral wire and a yarn as well. And then I picked up some eucalyptus, and there's definitely different kinds of eucalyptus. And I will say, from all the craft stores that I've been to, Michaels has a fantastic arrangement of florals. I was just blown away when I was there with all the spread that they had, even just the individual pieces. And for something like this, this is a lot of eucalyptus. You'd probably be able to get at least 2 hoops out of what we're doing today out of this. But I do think that some of these other smaller stem pieces that I've picked up it's definitely sufficient to just have one of these or a couple of these. So I do love Michaels for that reason, is I can just get what I need and I don't need anything more than that. And then of course you need your hoop. I know there are gold and silver versions. And so I'm typically a gold girl, but today I decided to mix it up and go with silver. So there are different size hoops. This one is the 14. There is definitely a 10-inch, and then there's even like a smaller one. So depending upon what you're looking for to do with your wall hanging, just know that there's different options out there. So to start out, and I'm going to slow down because I realized I've been talking way too fast. Let's go ahead and get our yarn out. And the one thing that I love about macrame, it is very repetitious. So let's find my end here. There we go. So what we're going to do is in our example of our macrame wall hanging, this one actually doesn't have anything so much hanging, so much as we're focusing on just the knots and the way that we twist and turn them. So there really isn't so much a measurement here as so much as I want you guys to be able to measure having some hanging off that we're gonna then tie on each end and then again, stretch it across and we'll have some hanging over here. So for me, it's about yay long, depending upon how your hoop is, and then we'll go ahead and cut it there. Now this isn't super precise on this, so if you make the next one, and sometimes I usually just put the ends together like that and then string them across. It's kind of my easy way when we're cutting rope in my studio to just make additional cuts that are all the same size. And I will say the great thing about working with yarn, and normally I'm used to working with cotton rope, is there's a little bit of stretch in there. And so it does give you a little bit of give when we go to like tie this on, you'll have a little bit of extra. So we're gonna go ahead and keep doing this. And for this project, we're going to make 14 of these. So that's 2. So let's go ahead and set that aside. And we're gonna keep doing this. Stringing it and releasing some of that yarn.
So Candace, while you're doing that, someone just joined the class. Could you repeat what size these strings are, please?
Sure, no problem. So what I did, let me cut this next one, is since we're going to be cutting off the excess, it's not so much a measurement so much as whatever your hoop size is, you're going to want to have a little bit extra on each end. So I want to make sure that this is in the frame for you. So I would say about maybe a hand's width extra on each side, and then kind of measure as you go across what that length then is going to be then on the other side, and then cut it there because we're going to cut all this excess off once we tie it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So then once you get that measurement cut, then you're just going to keep making several more of those. And if you want to, it doesn't necessarily have to be 14. If you want to add a couple more, we're just going to end up dividing those evenly as we weave it over. And you'll kind of see what I mean. So if for this example, if you do want to add more later, you certainly could, and I can show you how to do that as well too. I'm going to go back and count because I have a terrible short-term memory and I don't remember how many I had. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm going to set those to the side and use that as my guide. And we're going to make number 10 here. This is the most tedious part.
And Candace, would you say we could use any color yarn?
Absolutely. So a couple of the other examples that I have for you here of things that I've done, I think it actually looks good when you have two contrasting colors together. So I have some where I've done ivory and navy together, or navy and a mustard color that I really love. For this one, I thought it was just so gorgeous being neutral, that when I originally made this, I thought this would be great for a front door, or even I recently got married in October. I thought this could have been something fun for a flower girl to hold, maybe on a smaller scale walking down the aisle. So it really kind of depends the look that you're going for. The one that we're doing today, obviously, is very kind of delicate and neutral with the flowers, but I definitely think that there's so many ways to make this more modern. And some ways I'll show you at the end too. But definitely, I love the selection that Michael's had with, there was some that had speckles in it, and just some really nice warm colors, which I'm really, really drawn to. Okay, let's see how many we've got now. So there's 2. Sorry, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. I know I'm not the only one that had to recount that 2 or 3 times. Okay. So I'm going to pause for just a minute just to make sure that everybody else is caught up, in case those of you that logged on later want to jump on. And then I'll actually, while we're pausing for a minute, I do want to show you some other things that we aren't applying today, but I certainly want to show you other things that I found that I think would work really well. These are gorgeous. I actually had been looking for wooden beads for a while. And I have seen, if you go on Pinterest, you can certainly see some wall hangings where people have added beads. I think this is a great way to kind of bring that boho look. And I think when I show you at the end ways that you can actually make the wall hanging longer, and not so stopping abruptly like we're going to do today, this would be a great way to add that in. I also found these, tried to think a little bit outside of the box. And this is actually over in the jewelry section. Like I told you, I am a big gold girl. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I love arches. So I found these gold arches in the jewelry section, and some of these triangles. And I think there was also circles as well too, that I think would be a great way to add in to some of the patterns that you can make with the wall hanging, with the techniques that I show you today, as well as what's hanging down as well. So if you're looking to add something a little bit unique, I think you can definitely find some things in the jewelry section that you might like. And actually those wooden beads, I did have to ask where they were, because we just did a store remodel, and those wood beads were also in the jewelry section as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the Lark's head knot. So for this technique, you're going to want to match end to end, kind of stretch that out. And the point of this is to get it halfway. And what we're going to do is, oh my goodness, I totally just realized that I messed something up. Oh my gosh, you guys, I am so, so sorry. I'll show you the Lark's head knot, and unfortunately we're going to have to recut the yarn. I apologize. So what you were supposed to do is you would have gone under, and then you would have pulled this through. But this is a common mistake that I've seen people do before, and I've just made it for you. So I'm going to teach you what not to do. And you're going to want to stretch this all the way down, but we did not make this long enough. I am so, so sorry. Class 101, know what the heck you're doing, right? So let's try this again, you guys. Good thing we have all
great
this
to know what not to do.
Yes. Oh my gosh, what not to do. Okay. If we can all laugh about this, then we've learned something, right? Okay. So let's try this one more time. This might be the first time and the last time I get asked to teach for Michael's. Okay. So when somebody originally asked what length we were trying to do, that's a really good question, because I totally messed that up. Okay. So the length that you're going to need is, you're going to want to make sure you have enough to tie it, like that excess that I talked about. The problem is that I just didn't double the length. And then when we tie it down here on the bottom, we're going to want a little bit extra. So let's go ahead and cheat this a little bit. So once we tie it up here, we're going to want this down here to be long enough. And what this will end up looking like, I'm just going to give you a sneak peek, is once you tie this through, you're going to pull this, and then it's going to end up coming down here, and we're going to cut that. So let's make sure that we got this length. I'm gonna unravel that for you so that you kind of know where we're going. Okay. So pull this down. And again, we wanna make sure we have enough here, and we wanna make sure that we have enough down here. And then go ahead and cut that. This is the length that we need. I'm just gonna say that I helped you guys out with the future project, and with the stuff that we already cut, you can do that on a smaller piece. Now we're gonna cut our 14 pieces. Okay. And I was just working on one before this. Sorry guys.
So the while you're cutting, the metal hoop, you got that at Michael's, right?
Yes, correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And just to reiterate kind of what I talked about before, for those of you that might have joined late, they do have gold and they do have silver. So depending upon that, those are the two colors they have. And then they also have different sizes as well too. So this one was the 14-inch, and then there's 10-inch, and I think an even smaller one than that. So let's just do a quick periodic check here and make sure that we're still doing good on our length, and we are good. So I'm going to take one of these here. I'm just going to test this out quick. Make sure I'm still steering you guys in the right direction, and we are good. So that will be the Lark's head knot that we're going to learn. So let's keep cutting those. So that was one, and there's two, and there's our third one. So let's go ahead and keep cutting. There's 4. Five. And there's 6. We're almost there, I promise. There's 7. And another one, 8. So on the couple that I made as we're cutting, I will say for the size of yarn that I got, I was able to get almost 3 of the 14-inch hoops out of it. So you'll definitely have enough left over that you can continue to make different styles, more than what we have here. So a little bit does go a long way. All right, we're almost there, almost to the good stuff. And I'm gonna make one more cut, and then I'm gonna check to see how many I have. Thank you guys for all your grace and patience as we are recutting. So here is, let's go ahead and recount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this would be 11, and this would be 12. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 more.
So that's 14 pieces total, right?
Correct.
Perfect.
All right. This one. Whoops. Okay. All right. So now that we have our 14 pieces, and I'm going to go slow on the Lark's head knot, just so that we're all in it together, but also for any of you to catch up that unfortunately had to recut due to my error. So you're going to, for the Lark's head knot, you're going to meet end to end. And you're going to pull it all the way taut here. And so the Lark's head knot is you're simply going to, I'm going to move this up closer. You're going to take this and you're going to fold that loop over your hoop. And then you're going to take the rest of what you have here and shove it through. And then you're going to pull it all the way through. And then you're just going to pull this tight and see how it kind of cinches up there. Now you could go the opposite way. I'll show you that. And it doesn't make too much of a difference on something like this with the yarn, just because of the way that the fibers are, you don't see it too much, but we'll go end to end, pull it all the way taut. And now this one, let's say we went under and pulled it through. That's kind of the way that I prefer to do it. I think it did naturally for me, it's a better fit. And you pull it all the way through. So I'll show you the difference here, kind of like zoom up. So see how on the one that I did, this knot that's kind of coming out is kind of over that. Where this one, it's kind of in the back. It's still the same thing and it's still going to hold the same. So don't worry if you've done it the opposite way, whether putting the loop over or putting the loop under, you still get the same hold. It's just a slightly different look. But for something like this, we're not going to really see it with the way that it is. So it's okay even on this if I've like mixed and matched them. We're just looking for the knot. So again, we'll take another piece and we're going to match end to end. Pull it all the way taut so it's directly split in half. And I'm going to do it under, push it through, and then pull it all the way through. And then just go ahead and tighten that up. One thing I will say, and you'll probably notice this right away, obviously you want this to be tight. Now, because of the fibers on yarn, it does feel a little bit slippery, and that's okay. That's completely normal. And you will kind of notice before we tie the other side of it, how it might feel a little bit loose, and we can come back and tighten those up. I think cotton rope tends to have a little bit of a better grab. So the yarn you might feel is just a little bit slippery. That's completely normal. So again, we're going to go end to end, pull it all the way tight, and then take your loop, go under, push the end of the tassels through, and pull it tight. And don't worry if these are not all together. We're going to kind of push these over when we start to make our design. Again, end to end. And then we're going to grab that, going under. I kind of stick my fingers through there, push the two tails through, and pull it all the way tight. And then we're just going to keep that process till we get through all of them. Again, end to end, pull it tight. And we're going to bring it to it again. End to end. Find that middle, loop it under, push the tails through, and pull it tight. Loop it under, push the tails through, and pull it tight. I can't see what you guys are doing, but I know you guys are doing a fantastic job. You are halfway there to making your floral macrame piece. And I'd love to see what you guys do with it. So if you find me on Instagram, it's just my first and last name, Candace Luter. Definitely tag me, use the hashtag, make it with Michael's classes. I'd love to see the version that you guys do, and also how you take these skills and make something even better than what we're doing today. End to end. Hopefully I'm not moving too fast for anyone, but definitely let me know. Loop it around, loop it through.
I think you're doing great.
All right. Now that we got the right yarn cut, going end to end. nipping it through. And then pulling it tight. And the last one for me, pulling it through. And then we're going end to end. Okay. So there, as you can see, everything's pulled pretty tightly right there. So now we're gonna start the crossing over so that we can make our fun geometric shape. And I'm just gonna grab the one that we have on the wall just to give you guys a close-up view of where we're going. So as you can see, we started this, and then even this one slides around a little bit. You could put a little bit of dabbing of glue in there once you're done, if you want to do just to hold that shape. But I found that once it's kind of hung up on the wall, we don't really have that issue of it sliding around. So I'm going to set that out of the way. And what we're going to do now.
Sorry about that. We have a question. So
Yeah.
if you're doing two colors, would you do 7 and 7, or how would you go about doing that?
Yes, you would. So let me pull this back into the frame. So I would do 7 and then 7 of another color. And I can actually show you one of the pieces that I was going to show you at the end, but we can do it now. That way you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So this is kind of how I've done the 2 colors. So I would do your 7 here and then your 7 there. And then as we start to weave, they'll cross over each other. This is a better, depending upon, you know, which version you like of where the arrow is pointing down, is kind of like what it would look like if it was overlapping on the other side. So yep, you would definitely mix it up from there. So like we talked about, this is just the 7. If you wanted to do more, you could, but I find that whenever I'm working with a circle in particular, especially with the yarn, it's going to start sliding and slipping. I can show you what that looks like on an example that I did. The more I got kind of on the curve, the more that it just didn't hold how tight that it was. So just keep that in mind. If you do want to add some extra, then you might want to put some sort of glue or like a tiny rubber band or something to kind of prevent it from just slipping and sliding on there.
Everybody's saying how beautiful it is.
Oh, good. So glad you guys don't hate me yet. I promise I won't make any more mistakes. Okay, so on this one, if you're using the same colored yarn, or like I said, if you're using 2 different colored yarn, let's find out where the 7 is that we've divided up. So I would count, you can hold your finger here too if you want to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, and we're just gonna make just a tiny, maybe like 2-inch gap in which we're gonna work with. So this is the fun part, and I'm really going to try to get in here so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. It is okay if you get these out of order, and you'll see exactly what I mean. So let's kind of straighten this one out. What you're going to want to do is on this second section is you're going to take this first one and you're going to put it under the first one on this half. It feels a little bit easier when it's 2 different colors just because it's easier to see. The next one, you're going to put under the second one. So not this one, but this one, you're going to cross under. Third string, then you're going to cross under the third string. Where it's gotten tricky for me, and on some of the examples that I have, I can tell that I've gotten off one, is knowing where these pieces are splitting apart and which one is in front of the other one. Now, if you get one out of order, trust me, no one will notice, just again, because of the fibers, but that is one way that you can get off. So then on this one, the 4th one, we'll go under 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4th string. Super, super simple. Once you guys master this, you guys can master anything. Next one, you're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5th string. And you're just going to keep doing this. And see how those little guys kind of like to slip under there. That's why I kind of like over exaggerate how it's laid out, just to kind of keep me where I need to go. So then this string is then going to go under the next one. And then lay it out. The next string, we're going to pull this guy over, So it's probably about the 7th string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's gonna go under this next one. And you just keep going every other and putting it over the next one that doesn't have one. So this next string, then we're gonna look and see, yep, the next one's gonna go under this one. Same thing with this one. Now we're gonna gather it under this one. And we're gonna put it under this one. And again, if you need to count and that helps, you certainly can count since the numbers match. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you're gonna go under the 10th string. And you're just gonna continue to go under and just kind of layer that. And then you're gonna go under the next one. And this is all there is to it. And then this one, you're gonna go under this one. There's actually an artist in the Netherlands, and her studio is called Studio Nam. She is phenomenal for doing things like this, and she actually has a lot of very geometric shapes. I could stare at that thing all day long, and I'm not sure that I could ever figure out how to do it. Not that I would want to copy another artist. However, I just am in awe at what she does. So if you guys are looking for inspiration, it's Studio Nam, N-O-M. And she does phenomenal work with layering things like this and calling out and just making very 3D looking hoop type wall hangings. Whoops. So on this one, we'll go under here. Okay. Let me know if anyone has any questions up to this point. Otherwise, if you are right here, this is right where you need to be. So then the next step is, let's start here with this interior. You're just going to simply pull it tight. Find the first one there and you'll know, because you can just pull this over, and we're just going to simply tie it. There's nothing magical about this. It's basically just tying a knot. And if you feel like it might feel a little bit too loose, you can do 2, but once you pull it, see how we're just tightening that, and that just kind of what makes the design like pop out. So we kind of talked before about it. So then we'll take the next one and then we're going to tie it, and then you're going to keep simply tying up and tying over here, and then I'll show you how to bring it all together. In the meantime, let's go ahead and turn on our glue guns when you have them in it, just because I want to make sure that we don't run out of time here. And I know sometimes those things take a little bit of time to speed up or to heat up. So let's go ahead and tie this. I'm going to quickly turn on my glue gun while I'm asking you guys to. And get that going. All right. So the next one, and we're going to keep tying and moving, tying and moving. And then once we tie the other side, then you can really see that design pop out. And again, don't be surprised if you see one of these like out of order when you go to tie the other side, and that's totally okay. And as we're tying this, let's kind of move this a little bit kind of towards the center. What we're going to want to do is have about the same gap up top that we do on the bottom when it's all said and done. You guys are doing awesome, and we are almost finished. Once we add the floral, you guys will be good to go and good to hang it up. Since I just got married in October, I am going to I'm secretly trying to convert my stepdaughter's room into this like girly room, but she and her father are obsessed with Star Wars, which I have to admit, I just recently watched all the Star Wars and I'm pretty into it as well too. So we've got a Star Wars rug, and now we'll have this floral wall hanging, and she loves it all. So it totally works. But I will be excited to see how and where you guys use these. All right, so then I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, and it's gonna all come together. So we're gonna pull and tie. Find the next one. And again, if you feel like you're getting off what you pull on, you'll be able to see just to make sure that you're pulling them in the right order. And if you get them out of order, that's totally okay. You can either untie it, or depending upon how off it looks, you probably won't even notice. But we're going to get these tied in order here and pull them tight so we can see how they crisscross. And you can kind of, oh yeah.
So how would you add the wooden beads? Would it be before tying it at the bottom?
So what I would do is for something like this, I think that you could definitely slip on like smaller beads before then you tie it here. Or in this case, we are going to be cutting this excess, but if you wanted to make it longer, then you could always add the beads down here as well too. So yeah, I would definitely weave them and then add them here before you tie it to the other side. Or again, you could tie it on the tails, and I can show you on that longer one too. Where I would kind of place those. I did see some fun ones on Pinterest where people were putting those sort of jewelry embellishments in there, and it looked really, really cool.
Awesome.
Next one. And again, we're just kind of keeping it all tight and together, and we can adjust those where they need to be. And we're almost finished.
So as soon as you're done, could you explain one more time how to get the length of the strings?
Yes, no problem. Do as I say, not as I do, right? All right, I'm almost finished tying. Get those glue guns heated up, and then we'll be ready to add the floral. All right, and one more. Okay. So before I show you guys again how to measure, you can kind of see how this is, whoops, kind of starting to come together. So you kind of want this to be, see how mine's kind of off center a little bit. I'm going to start to kind of like cheat this over a little bit. And you can kind of like move the fibers out of the way. Kind of put those. So you really kind of want this like up and down sort of thing. And that's the great thing about it being on a circle, is that you can just adjust it wherever you need. I'm a little bit off center here, so I'm gonna kind of move these over. And you guys can make your adjustments on yours too if you feel like you need to. Okay. So you can kind of see how this is really starting to take that geometric shape, which I think is super, super cool. And then the other side is very similar, except that the arrow is then kind of pointing down. So depending upon what way you want to display it, will just be the way that you want to put the floral on. So in this particular example, I'm going to hold this up here a little bit. You can see that there's not long tassels. So we're going to cut this off. So we really didn't need all this extra length, but I wanted to make sure that we had enough to work with. So by the time you tied it, you still had some excess to work with. So when you're doing this particular style that we're doing today, see how you had all this extra? You're just going to want to make sure that when you go to tie it at the top, that you have enough for the loop at the top. So give yourself a little bit, and then just to come back down how we tied it. So this length really is to make sure that it goes up and down, and then a little bit at the top and the bottom. So again, let's call it maybe 5 inches at the bottom, then the length. And then if you want to, 5 inches again at the top to come back down and meet again. And that would be the length that you would then want to cut for this particular one. Now, if you want to do something a lot longer, let me pull out this example again. Do we want to switch to showing the full on view from the other angle?
Sure.
So this one in particular is a lot longer. So you're going to want to make sure that that piece that you cut is the length that you want at least. Now this one was a lot longer, and then I kind of like cut it a little bit like this. You're going to want to make sure that it's that length enough for you to tie it, to go back up, to loop, and then come back down. So that whole length to go up and back down is the length of one of those pieces. So that's the mistake that I made before is I didn't double the length, and that's why we had such short pieces. So hopefully that helps. Now here's another example if we want to stay on that frame. Is where, again, I did some shorter pieces. So again, it's the same thing as what we're doing here. I just ended up cutting it off. So I probably did a little bit long here and a little bit long there just to give myself the loop and then to come back down to knot it. So, okay. So now the next step that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to just trim this off. So once you've got it where you need to, you're going to want to grab your scissors and you're just going to want to just trim this excess off because this is all going to get covered by the foil. Now make sure you're not cutting the knots. And we're just going to trim that off so that we can add the floral. And then we can just discard those. So on my piece, as you can see, I've got about 2 layers of the eucalyptus leaves here. And I've kind of done one piece here, one piece there, and then I've doubled them up. So I'm gonna do the same thing with what I have here. And I'm gonna find like a longer piece and I'm gonna take those scissors and I'm just gonna like cut it off. So I still get the rest of those leaves and cut it as short as I can to the stem because we're gonna hide that. Now you kind of really gotta like get in there and trim this a little bit because that metal wire is pretty tough. So you're gonna have to like cut this a little bit. Nobody hurt themselves. Let's see if we can. And now we're gonna get this, you guys. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and find another long piece. And let's work at that one. We're gonna cut this. We're gonna get through those layers of metal in there. Kind of wriggle it just a little bit and keep at it. We're almost there. Hopefully yours is a little bit easier to cut.
We also have some suggestions in the chat. So wire cutters or floral snips.
Perfect.
Might be easier.
Thank you, thank you. All right, so once you've cut your pieces, kind of figure out where you'd like to lay that at. And I kind of use this as my dividing line to kind of decide where I kind of want that stem to be. And I kind of want to cheat it over just a little bit so that when I lay it out, they kind of overlap each other. And then on this side, kind of I think that placement looks pretty nice there. So then you'll want to take your wire, your floral wire, cut a little bit here. A few small pieces, however much you think that you need to kind of wrap it around and just to kind of secure it. So I secured mine in about 2 or 3 different places on each stem just to make sure that it wasn't sliding around. And I simply took my wire, kind of wrapped it around, and then kind of made sure that I just kept wrapping until it was hidden. That's why you don't need super long pieces. Otherwise you'll be wrapping for days. And then whatever you don't need, if there's excess, just go ahead and snip it off.
Candace, could you move the hoop a little more to your left so it's more centered?
Yeah. No problem. Is that better?
A little bit more, is that possible?
Yeah, no problem. Over this way?
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Yep. And then again, down here, wherever you think is going to be the most supportive with the stems that you have. And then just begin to like wrap it around. Some of this is going to get covered up with some of those flowers. And then when it feels pretty secure, I'm going to go kind of weave it in and out a little bit. That feels pretty secure. And I'm going to snip a little bit of the excess. And then I'm going to continue to do the same on this side. So just kind of layering. And then for each person, it's completely different depending upon where you kind of want that to lay out at, where you think looks best. And then just kind of try and remember that you want those flowers to kind of be placed towards the center. So that might adjust kind of where you put and place things. And there's definitely no rhyme or rule on how much floral wire you use, just whatever feels most secure. And you'll know as soon as you hold it up how secure it is. So feel free to add more if you feel like you need to. And then I'm just gonna leave this in and out and make sure nothing's poking out just so it's not sharp. All right, so once you've kind of laid the base work for that, then you're gonna wanna go ahead and cut just a little bit more. And I would cut for my project that I've got laid here, I'm gonna go ahead and cut another big sprig. And then I'm gonna put another sprig on this side and then we'll glue the things in the center. So go ahead and yes, if I had those snips, that would come in handy right about now. So for now, I'm gonna try to get in here and cut this. Kind of cut that a little bit and bend it. And she's coming apart here. There we go. So I'm gonna lay another piece. I'm gonna cheat this over just a little bit more just so I have it layered pretty nicely. And then I'm gonna cut one of these big guys. And again, feel free to add as much or as little as you want to, depending upon how full you want to make it. I'll probably lay that right about there. I think would look pretty nice. So again, I'm gonna get my floral wire, cut a couple small pieces. And then I'm just gonna start weaving that in here. And again, don't get too concerned if where you're crossing over in the middle looks like a lot of floral wire, because you can really cover that up with the placement of the other pieces that we're gonna lay on here. Your roses or your peonies or whatever other floral arrangements that you bought, we can definitely cover that up. And then we wanna make sure that we then secure the top. Bring it down in there and back around. Tuck that right back in there. And then I'm going to secure a little bit more on this side. How's everybody doing out there? We're doing okay?
I think so. Laura says it's looking so rustic and chic already.
Oh, chic. Good.
Yeah, I think everyone's loving it.
Good, good, good. Well, I am so excited to have you guys today. For those of you that never thought you would come to Iowa, you were wrong.
Oh, we have a question here from Judy. Yeah. Can you use I cannot pronounce that, embroidery, sorry.
Embroidery.
Hoop. Yeah, a hoop.
Yeah, I definitely think you could. And actually, I think that's a really good idea. That's not something that I would have thought of before, but you can absolutely do that. As long as you've got just like a solid base to do the lark's head knot around and then to pull it, I think would absolutely work. And actually, you'll probably find that it might stay a little bit better because that wood is going to give that yarn something to kind of stick to and won't be so slippery like the metal is. That is a great idea. You're going to have to make one of those now and then show me it when you're all finished. So I can certainly add more to this, but I definitely want to do the next step for those of you that are at that place right now, and also just to make sure we don't run out of time. So on this one, we're going to figure out where we kind of want to place the flowers. So on my original inspiration, I've kind of got one placed here in the center, and then I've got these two on each side. Now, if you've got a longer stem and you want to use floral wire, you certainly can. Otherwise, I simply just hot glued mine in there. And I thought that it stuck really nicely. So I'm going to kind of look for some of these bigger guys. And then this one looks like it's just going to pop off. So that one I won't have to cut. So that's nice. Pull that off. And again, it's kind of nice with some of these bigger ones because then you can definitely make multiple out of these and make more wall hangings. So let me see about this one. And to get our handy dandy scissors and see if we can cut this through. And we're just going to do a dab of that glue right in the center. Should be good. So for me, I am going to put a little bit right around this base. It'll come out. There we go. I'm going to slip this, this little stump here kind of through that. And I'm going to kind of stick it right in there. Kind of attach those leaves to leaves. And then still making sure that that's right in the center of my sort of geometric crisscross right here. And then the same thing with these. I'm going to butt these, kind of tuck these right up under there. A little bit of glue. And then I'm going to nestle that right in there. And kind of hold that down just a little bit, just so it grabs where it needs to. Perfect. And then the same thing with this last one. I might need to get another glue stick. There we go. And then we'll stick this one right over here so it kind of looks centered. Make sure that has got a good hold. So we really kind of covered up where those was crisscrossing. So that definitely helps to cover up some of that. And again, I think I definitely could have added some more eucalyptus right here where sort of that floral wire is showing, and then a little bit more in here I think would look nice. But I definitely wanted to make sure that I got all of your questions answered so you could see what the finished product was before we ran out of time. Now on hanging it, I definitely think you could get some decorative knobs. You could always simply put it like on a tiny nail. You could also take one of those short pieces that we did, and you could always Lark's head knot up as a way to finish. And then you could simply tie this up here. And then you have something to hang from. And then kind of snip that. Definitely different ways to hang that if you need to hang it. And again, you can move this a little bit closer. You'll just want to adjust this. You can move this farther away for something a little bit more dramatic. But again, like one of you had asked, you can definitely do a mix of colors. And again, just making sure that you're just kind of pulling those weaves apart when you make those adjustments, just so that you keep that nice geometric shape. So yeah, that is our DIY floral macrame class. Again, I already showed you a couple of the things that you could do. The one thing I will say, and I'll use this as a poor example of also what not to do if we want to pan back out. This one that I did right here, I kind of try to do this like sort of off center look, but you can see what happens. The closer that this gets down, it really kind of starts to sag. I mean, I'm pushing it down right now, so it really is dramatic and you can see it. But the closer I would say it kind of gets on a certain curve, the more it starts to sag. So whatever design that you do, you just want to make sure that you're really kind of getting that as tight as possible if you're wanting to do some sort of like off center looks. But again, if this was turned like this, then I think then it kind of looks a little bit more symmetrical, and then you don't have to kind of worry about it like sagging around on that sort of curve. But again, if you want it longer, just remember when you cut to make sure that you're giving yourself enough to go up and then to loop back down, and then that's the length that you need. I always tend, whenever we do stuff at the studio, to tell myself and some of the girls that work with me to do it longer than they normally would, just so they have a lot of play to be able to shape it up or taper it in whatever designs that you want. So yeah, so I am excited to see what you guys have all done. Thank you guys for joining me today. I don't know if there's any other questions I'd be happy to answer, but definitely tag me, use the hashtag make it with Michael's classes. I'd love to see what you guys do. And then again, taking those skills of the Lark's head knot. And I can't wait to see what you guys do to take this technique and make it your own. Does anybody have any last minute questions before we sign off today?
No last questions. Everybody really enjoyed your class today. I just put your Instagram in the chat so everybody can look you up there and tag you as well. So yeah, wonderful. Everyone, thank you for such an amazing class.
Oh, well, thank you. And thanks to Michael's again for the opportunity. I love to have you guys in my studio. You guys are welcome anytime. And if you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And again, thank you guys so much for your patience while we had that little miscut mishap, but we bounced back, and you know what? Those things happen all the time. So thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you soon.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.